Hi everyone who can hear me. It's not quite the show yet. We're probably 15 minutes away from starting, so I'm just doing a bit of noodling. But I thought I'd start streaming anyway, so you know everyone can get ready and grab a coffee. Hi Matthew, hi Inky, good to see you guys. Yeah, so we're not quite started yet. I'm probably, what are we? 9:44 p.m. here in Western Australia. So the stream will officially start at 10, which is 15 minutes away. And yeah, in the meantime, get ready, grab your coffees, listen to me noodling. I'm just setting up basically. I'm just we're doing all control voltage, so you know, making sure it's not going to be a complete train wreck like some of my streams have been. Turn the mic off for a second, mute that so you can't hear me. Feel free to chat away. Feel free to ask questions. Still a couple of minutes away. I might, in a minute I might hit the music. The music will be kind of something like this. Something like that. just before the stream starts. So you guys will know probably about 2 minutes before the stream starts. Officially, I'll be doing that. And I'm going to try something new this week. I'm going to try and record the stream instead of just using the YouTube. They just post the stream at the end after a couple of minutes after it's processed. I'm going to record it here, and if I need to do any, you know, editing and that, I might upload that instead of some of the bits where I don't do too well. So what have you guys been up to this fine Saturday? Inky's saying that it's about 3 p.m. Okay, cool. Summertime, so you've got the daylight savings, I think, over there. That's groovy. Yeah, I am getting into the Neutron. I don't know if I love it. It's okay. What I like about it is probably more the mathematical stuff that it does, the electronic stuff. The sound is okay. It's funny, the 3340 VCO, the Curtis CEM VCO, which is also in the MS101 and the Roland SH101 and all that sort of synths. It's quite common. But this kind of sounds different. I don't know. You guys, I think, Matthew, you've got a Neutron, don't you? If I remember rightly. We do have, we've got a Skype guest I don't know if you guys have been reading my social media or not. We've got a Skype guest today. He's from Boston. So that should be interesting. We can talk to him. Sounds like we are in galaxy warfare. Pimping my MPC with launch control. Oh, yes. Yes, launch control. Novation launch control. What did I use? Launch control, or was it launch? Yeah, it was launch control. Yeah, it was the same thing. And I was doing the, I got it. I mean, I've done so many videos, it's not funny. 150 something videos now. Crazy. You forget. You forget. I was MIDI, yeah, that's right. I was MIDI mapping the MPC. So you've been doing that too. It's actually cool fun doing that. You can grab it. It's here. There's the MPC. Yay. Yeah, it's cool fun. Yes. I haven't used it for a while though. Couple of days, couple of weeks maybe, I don't know, something like that. Okay, now CV. The filter is quite nice on this. Very resonancy. Oh geez, I just blew the speakers. Sorry. That was too loud. Ah, yeah, your Eurorack module 3340s, yeah. Oh, you got an OPZ. Yes. OPZ. OP1 here. I've had my OP1 for years. I don't love it though. It's cool, but it's not cool. It's a love-hate relationship, the OP1. I don't know if I could get my head around not having some sort of visual interface. I know they've got the app now, so that might make it a bit better. You have to let me know how you're going with that, mate. I know it's yeah, I know it's kind of your thing, the Eurorack stuff. So you're probably gonna use all of the CV side of it. I'm just imagining. So. Where are we going for time? 9:52. Couple of minutes, and I'll mute the mic and I'll just do the stream intro. So I think we're ready to go. It's quite a complex patch I've got going here. I don't want to make it too complex. It's amazing how quickly you can make a patch complex. It looks just like spaghetti, and then you think to yourself, "How did I do that? It sounds awesome." But all it is just kind of, yeah, I need that, and then you plug it in, and then before you know it, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things plugged in there, which is probably nothing. When you consider there's so many, there's 32 or something. It does go crazy. Yeah. Probably, I'd have to say my favorite thing about the Neutron. I really love the sample and hold circle on it. I think it's fantastic. I've got stuff with sample and hold on it, but this, I don't know, just there's something about that sample and hold that I really like. I don't know where they got it from, whether they just made their own, but it's really nice. And have you guys noticed, or ye Neutron owners, that the LFO shape knob, right, when you actually change your waveform, it actually isn't the same as the shape on the oscillator. I know someone's done a video on this, and you're going, oh, of course I know, but it actually is just like a switch. And I've actually had it through this oscilloscope, and I didn't realize it. I thought this was variable wave shaping LFO like the oscillators, but it's not. So literally it just goes from that waveform to that waveform, and anything in between is still that waveform. So kind of a little bit disappointed with that. I thought you'd have variable shape LFO. That'd be cool. I don't know why they didn't do it. The LFO I think is digital on that anyway, so yeah, take photos of it. Take photos of I just do videos. Take videos of it. Dear. You can take photos and videos. Same thing. All right, let's go to the live stream screen. I can still chat to you guys via text. So disappear mic. Oh, and music now.
Your credit, your bank, your history, your ancestry. We want your address, your phone, your contacts, their phone when you're home. We want your lunch, your dinner, shopping list, your diet, a heart attack. We want your car, the make, the speed, the holidays you took, the fake details in your logbook. We want your kids, their names, their school, your pets, your pics, your favorite hits. We want your movies, TV, your downloads, the truth, and when you like.
Australian telephone and internet service providers will be required to retain data about who you call or email. I can hear you, but we're currently just muted for a sec. Hey everyone, welcome to Saturday, welcome to the live stream, and hope everyone's having an awesome weekend so far. I know it's just starting for some of you, and it's almost halfway through for some of us. So yeah, jump into chat. I know there's a few people in there already. I actually started the stream a little bit earlier today just to sort of do some noodling and just get set up, and so it's good because we've got some people already chatting in the chat room, which is awesome. And also today we've got a special guest, and I thought I might get straight into it and introduce him now. And here he is. Let's say, one sec, click here before I do that. Let's say a big hi to Michael. How you going, Michael?
Hey, greetings. Thanks for having me on.
Beautiful, beautiful. We, like to have these special Skype guests on here, and it's something that we can all share with each other. Michael's actually been in on the live stream before, and he's been chatting in the live chat before, but put his hand up to come on to Skype, and any of you guys can do this as well. So it's awesome that Michael's decided to do it, and he's going to have a chat to us and tell us all about his world, his music world. He's playing live. He's got a gig coming up, and he's going to tell us all about that. There's going to be a fair few people to that, which will be cool. So Michael, why don't you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do with your music, and go for there.
Yeah, hey everybody. I'm in frame. You can see it all right.
Yeah, they should be able to see it. They'll say in chat if they can't.
Awesome. So I'm outside of Boston, so I'm 12 hours difference. So it's morning for me here, and I don't know. I've been hanging out in the Ranzee's channel for quite a long time. But are the streams new? Because I kind of was looking for you, keyboard information and synth information, and I don't know. I saw your channel. I instantly recognized it as something I had been following, and I saw you've been doing streams. So for about a month or two, or whatever, I think I've been coming into the chats.
About that long, yeah. I think, what are we up to now? 13? Yeah, this is 13th stream. So, geez, it's like it only feels like I've only done one or two. But yeah, keep going, man.
Yeah. So anyway, in the cover band.
Oh, we just lost your mic. You fiddled with it and you've lost your mic. Fiddle back. I can still see you, and everyone can see you, but your mic has just gone clickety click. There we go.
Here we go. It wasn't inserted properly.
Oh, beautiful.
So yeah, I'm in a cover band, which is a new thing for me. Playing 70s, 80s, 90s rock, which, because we're 50 years and older, most of us in the band, we think that's 90s is new music, even though it's 20 years old. So yeah, one of the things that I've been tasked with is, as a bass player, adding some keys so we can do some more different covers that have keys in the background and things like that. And that's definitely how I found your stream again. And I've been learning a lot, and I got the Keith McMillan 12-step, which, if anybody wants to talk about it, I have that. I have just started using it. But I've done a ton of stuff over the years. Done film scores, video games, music for video games, all kinds of things. I'm not sure what's interesting to the crowd here.
Bit of everything, I think.
Yeah, probably the most notable thing, besides original bands in the 90s, did some prog metal, was a film score I did with, are you familiar with the Dixie Dregs? It's a
No.
kind of fusion-y band from the 80s, 70s, 80s.
Don't know it,
Pretty-
but some
pretty
of the
big.
guys here, mate.
Yeah, Steve Morse. Are you familiar with the guitarist Steve Morse?
Yes, yep.
It's his first band. It's his it's his
right.
pet project.
His early stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and they were Grammy nominated 3 times, but the keyboardist, T. Lavitz, is local to me. And when I was reaching out doing film scores, trying to get better at keys, and I reached out to him for lessons and realized he was 45 minutes away from me. So instead of taking lessons, we actually became pretty good friends. And instead of taking the lesson, we'd be chatting for 2 hours, which is not productive for a keyboard stance, but it was really good to meet him. And we ended up doing a film score together on one of the films that I produced. So that was amazing. That's probably the coolest thing of note that I've done.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
That's awesome. So before we'll definitely get more into your stuff, absolutely. Yep. But I thought we'd do too, just for there's going to be people on the stream that have never been here before. So just so you guys know who are new, kind of how we roll here is it's all about you guys. We're all users. Everyone here. There's no companies or people who are being paid or anything like that. We're all musicians. We're all or trying to be musicians even, like me. Terrible musician, and there's the live chat, and we always would love it if you guys could jump in the live chat, say hi, introduce yourself, and definitely ask questions. Now, as you know, Michael's here, so we're definitely going to be talking to him, but also at the main topic today is this baby here. We're going to be doing control voltage with CV, or control voltage, with a controller, and the controller I'm going to use is the Arturia Keystep because it's got pitch and CV gate on it. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and I think there's going to be people here that are wanting to do that, so we'll definitely be doing that shortly, so bear with us. And don't forget to, I always do my standard segments of news and the funny side as well, so that's going to be here. So there's quite a lot to get through today. So hopefully you guys can all stick around for it. So let's head on back with Michael. Michael, just tell us a little bit about this gig you've got coming up. You were telling me yesterday it was pretty exciting.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. The biggest crowd I probably played to in the '90s was probably 300 or 400 people. This one's going to be 800 in front of the stage, but it's a 4th of July celebration, which in our country is our country's birthday. And we have fireworks at night every year, and it's a big city near where my family and I all grew up. So there's actually a regatta, which is like a carnival and amusement rides and things right across the street, and it's right on the river, and it's a big stage. So it's actually more than the 800 people. So it came up at the last minute, but I'm really excited to do it, and probably going to see lots of family and people surprised to see me up there, which is really cool. So it's a cover band, so we're going to be doing,
Yeah, it's awesome.
some great music.
So it's
it'll
kind
be a new
of rock and
experience.
roll, isn't it? You're saying it was like a rock
Yeah.
and roll stuff. So
Yeah.
what's a couple of songs you do? A couple of
So
bangers.
Gold Dust Woman, the whole cover from
Yep.
the Fleetwood Mac. We actually do it even a little bit heavier, and things like that. The SR-71 cover of In Your Eyes, we really heavied that up. Bob O'Reilly, songs like that. So a lot of classic rock.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Awesome. So just quick highs to everyone who's in the chat room. 888 Berg, how you going? Inky, John Cuba, good to see you back, matey. And Matthew Brown, I think Matthew's from over my way, I believe. So it's good to have quite a few of you. And I know there's probably a few that are hanging around in the lurks, so jump into the chat room and say hi as well. So yeah, why don't we jump on to the next segment just quickly?
Sure.
I think the first one we're going to do is news, so let's do that. Now, I don't have a cut or a transition or stinger on for this one, but we'll just go straight into it. Now, this isn't probably really kind of like breaking news. This is kind of older news, but I think it's worth talking about because the guy that's behind the Black Corporation. Now, tell me how to pronounce this. Is it Xerxes? Yeah, it's a great name for a synth, and it's the Elka Synthex. Now notice how I've said replicant, not clone. So these Black Corporation guys, they like the word replicant, so they don't want to be known as cloners. They want to be known as replicates, you know. So now this thing has got me really excited. I know they've done the CS80, which is called Deckard's Dream, and they've done the polycobalt, I forget what they call it, Kimiji or something like that. There's another one that's the clone or replicant of the RSF Cobalt, which is a really rare synth, and they've done that. That's already out. You can get those as kits. This one isn't finished yet, and at the moment, the guy that's big on this, this was at Super Booth. You could actually listen to it. They were putting out the laser harp, the famous laser harp patch that you probably would have heard Jean-Michel Jarre use in the 80s. So this thing can do it already. I think this is definitely going to be on my buy list. I know I'm going to have to make the thing. It's going to be a nightmare to make, but get the soldering iron out. But this thing's really, really huge. And I just wanted to know in chat, are you guys excited about the Black Corporation stuff? I mean, I know Behringer are doing a lot of cloning. What about this? There's 3 massive synths that Black Corporation have. I mean, the 2 that are released, and this one is imminent. It's only a few months away. So what do you guys think? Let us know in the chat. But moving right along, I'm going to keep going with the news. There's a couple of news for us. Where are we? I've got to be clickety-click here. So this one is, these guys are pretty cool. I don't know if you guys have heard of Audio Thingies. They kind of make kits, right? Electronic kits. And they brought out, many years ago, they brought out the MIDI Bro, which I've got, which is I don't know if you can see that. MIDI Bro, there you go. That's this thing here. And it's basically the MIDI PAL clone that Mutable Instruments stopped making, and these guys kept bringing it out because everyone's going, why'd you stop making it? And then since then, they've brought out a couple of synths, and they've been making heaps of cool stuff. And here we go with the new thing that they've released. It's called Dr. A. And as you can see, it's a 12-bit multi-mode modulated stereo delay. It doesn't say stereo there, but I guarantee you it's stereo delay with tap and MIDI sync and also control voltage or CV. So this is a pretty cool delay, and you can build this as a kit. So I think it's available now. I tried to go on their website earlier today and it was down. So whether it was me or them, I don't know, but someone could probably definitely check into it. And the guy that's behind Audio Thingies, Triple Eight Burger's saying they made a synth called the Micro Monster. It's still there. It's really cool. It's a digital thing, but this thing's digital as well. So anyway, I like my delay. So there's that. Now the next thing. I mean, talking about French companies. So Audio Thingies, I believe, are French, and so are these guys. These guys are bringing out this synth called the Essence FM. And what's really interesting about this is, how do I say it? Okay, so FM, without treading on anyone's toes, because we're all different, but for the majority of people, FM is a little bit over their head. So that in the end, most people who aren't really into programming FM synths just use patches. So they'll just go and get all the DX7 patches, and there's tons of them, but it'll end up just being a patch thing, and they don't really get into the whole sound design side of it. And FM can be amazing for sound design, which is completely different to subtractive synthesis. And these guys have basically, they've said, look, we want to free up the algorithm side of FM synth, and we're going to use some sort of, they're calling it a drag and drop sort of system, where it's a user editable screen, and you can put waveforms in, and it's got 300 voice polyphony. I mean, holy crap. This thing is going to be absolutely huge. I don't think it's quite finished yet, but they've got a prototype, and it's very scary what this thing is going to be able to do. So those who are into FM, this is definitely something worth waiting for when it does come out. So that's the news.
And looking in the description, you can adjust the envelope graphically. That's cool.
Yeah, and I think the other cool thing about it too is, I know in that picture they had, it was like a rack mount thing, but they are saying that it's also desktop. So yes, you can put it in a rack, but at the same time you can also just use it as a desktop module as well. So it's kind of dual purpose. And so when I say rack mount, I think it's 19-inch rack mount, not Euro rack mount, just to sort of get there. Now, just having a quick look in chat, everyone's going crazy about the audio thingy stuff. Matthew Brown's saying €300 for the what's it called, Dr. A delay thing that they're building. Oh yeah, and when you buy, so 888 Berg saying when you buy something from them, they send you little sweets in the. So like Sweetwater do that in the US,
Sweetwater, yeah.
So these guys do as well. So you can get French sweets when you buy their stuff, and when you buy stuff from Sweetwater, you get American sweets. So I've bought stuff from Sweetwater. So I don't remember sweets coming from audio thingies, but I could be wrong. I know Perfect Circuit over in LA put sweets in their stuff as well. Have you guys used Perfect Circuit? Have you used them before, Michael?
No, I haven't heard of that. That's definitely, I think, a book to bookmark though.
Yeah, I mean, you don't buy synths just to get sweets, but I mean, if you're starving, it might be a good idea. So yeah. All right, so we've got another segment which we're going to get straight into, so that way we can get through this real quick, and that's my funny side. And I do have a stinger for this, as I always do. So we're going to roll with that. Here we go. Boom, and as you know, each week I find, or it usually just comes across my phone, really, these things. This guy is actually a mate of mine. He's I don't know whether he actually designed this, but I thought it was quite funny. The lead singer helps unload gear. I mean, what will happen? What's the world coming to, guys? A lead singer helping to unload gear. I mean, actually, it says on the subtitle there that the drummer was actually now ready for a sound check on time. I mean, guys, this is just not on. We can't have lead singers unloading cars. It's crazy. So there's the funny side. We've got a couple more. Let's go into the next one. Now, who remembers me doing the Electron? The Electron decided to design a new synth with the, what do you call it? The one that's the FM one. And they put a keyboard on it, and it was really, really long and thin. So this is Electron's HQ, because they like things long and thin, apparently. I don't know if you get that or not. Anyway, I do. That one probably... Crickets! There's crickets! Everyone's not laughing. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, and the last one, I think this is the last one. I thought this was funny. Look, I'm pretty broad-minded. I don't mind dressing up as your modular, but I'm not going to say, oh yeah, patch me, baby. So these are kind of crazy, these things. And that is FunnySide. For...
so the picture just switched.
Or not so FunnySide. Did you guys see that last one, or do you want me to put it back up again? I don't know if you saw it. It's probably hard for you to see, Michael. It's
Yeah, it just came out. I just saw it now. I didn't laugh because it hadn't changed yet.
Yeah. It's what is it, a couple of seconds delay. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's sometimes they're not so funny. Maybe I should call the segment "Not So Funny Side," or trying really hard to be funny side but failing.
Yeah, that picture with the singer that helped load, I've been seeing that all week.
Yeah, it's just been
popping up everywhere.
That's been crazy, that one. The Electron HQ one's been all over my feed. I don't know who did it. I mean, sometimes I just find them on Facebook and I just save it on my phone and download it, and I forget who to credit. But if you're watching and it was your meme, sing out and chat, and I'll credit you definitely, because actually literally made me laugh out loud when that one came up. The Digitone was the name of the Electron synth that they brought out with the keyboard, and it was just if you Michael, if you have a look at Google, you'll see it's crazy that design is so long, and yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to go into it, but yeah, one of my old streams, we were having a good laugh about it.
Cool. Yeah, I'm on Perfect Circuit right now. I just bookmarked it, so I'm going to take a look for that later on.
Yeah, those guys are good. Definitely strong in Eurorack as well. I know you're not into Eurorack just yet, or you maybe never will be, but they're also strong in synths as well. But it's like one of those places where you can get, it's a bit of everything for everyone. And they're not some big massive company. They're a family business, so big thumbs up for them. Pity they're in the US for me, because I've got to pay postage and import duties and crap like that. I'd love to have a business like that over here in Australia. It would be awesome. We've got a couple of bigger sort of music stores over here in Australia, and some of them are pretty cool, but they not really showing much into Eurorack. I think Australia is a very conservative market, I think is probably a good way of saying it. So a lot of musicians here in Australia would definitely be into this stuff, but we'd all be buying it from overseas, because the retailers take a while to sort of catch on that there's a market here. So
right.
Yeah. I know you don't really touch Eurorack yet, Michael, so
not yet, but gear is a problem for me.
Yeah.
Purchasing too much.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So you never know where that path's going to go.
Yeah, like I was saying before, you can get the sweets from the that might be all you're eating for that week.
and Sweetwater has the easy financing too, which is so
dangerous.
Tempting.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
0% too.
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah.
But I was gonna say, for my next gear purchase, I've been watching a lot, even some of your other older videos with the JDXI and things like that. I'm trying to decide on a synth, because with the Juno, you can do a lot with it, but some of it's deep in the menus, and there's limitations here and there. With every machine. But I want something that's more with an arpeggiator, like right on the front instead of in a patch select in a menu. Things like that, and that's what I've been looking at. I love the thing you did 2 weeks ago was it 2 weeks ago, JDXI, or was it last week?
Okay, a couple of weeks ago, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I was amazed at that keyboard, and there's a cheaper one too, right? There's the $500 one.
So the JDXI is the cheap one, and the
it is, okay.
The JDXA is the big sort of monolithic one. And I mean, there's actually quite a lot of difference between the two. The big difference is the A's got 4 analog synths in it, as well as the 2 digital. So whereas the I's only got 1 analog synth in it. But the A doesn't have the drum system in it. As far as I know, I don't think it's got the drum set up. So that the smaller one, the cheaper one, has actually got a complete Roland 808 digital version, 909, and all the other drum kits that Roland ever made in there, which is pretty cool. So if you wanted to sequence some drums, it's all built in.
Yep. And then you look at the Deep Mind, and I said, that looks really cool too. Absolutely not what I was going to go for, but it just looks so awesome. I'm like, I need that too.
The thing is that things change so quickly. Like when the Deep Mind came out, it was filling a market need, and I think that market need's kind of filled. So in a way, if you look at the Deep Mind now, and I jump in chat if you guys have an opinion about this, but the Deep Mind at the time when it first came out, there wasn't very many analog polysynths that were out there that were affordable. And so what Behringer made was the Deep Mind, and it was based on the Juno. The original Juno 106 was an 80s synth analog from Roland. And they decided, obviously maybe for legal reasons or whatever, to kind of make it their own. But the guts of it pretty much is a Juno, and they made this thing's 12 voice, which is double what the Juno 106 ever had, and I mean, this thing's huge. But since then, how many polyphonic analog synths have come out? It's insane. It's like the next thing that happened after that was Korg brought out this thing called the Prologue, which is a bigger version of the mini log that they had just before.
Yeah,
so
I've had that.
That thing's 16 voice, and so all of a sudden now, and then you've got DSI. They've got their 16 voice thing that they brought out called the Rev 2, and then all of a sudden now we're just flooded with analog polysynths, and I was just mentioning before, there's Black Corporation who are doing those replicants, and if you watch Super Booth, it was like literally, I would call this year the analog polysynth year. I think it's, how each year seems to have a theme with music, musical instruments. I think this year is the polysynth year for analog gear. So yeah,
I do like with the JD ones where they have the digital as well, so you kind of get the best of both worlds a little bit, supposedly.
Yeah. So the JDXI and the JDXA definitely are cool. I actually think the JDXA, I mean, it's more expensive and everything, but if you can get your hands on one of those before I don't think Roland are making them anymore. So if you can get your hands on one of those, they'll actually start going up in value, because they weren't a big seller for Roland. They didn't do that well with them. The JDXI was a big seller with them, but the A wasn't. And I think maybe it was because it was before its time. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't suit the needs of most people. Who knows? But it's actually a really good synthesizer. The actual control surface on it is pretty much knob per function, and that was rare for Roland to do that. So in the old days they did it, and then they stopped doing that and had everything menu diving. And the JDXI, as you saw we doing a couple of weeks ago, it's kind of menu diving that synth as well. So
okay,
you don't really want that, especially if you're playing live.
Yeah, Inky is saying that the Prologue dropped in price, and he would go for the Peak over the DeepMind, if I'm reading that properly.
Oh yeah, the Peak is amazing. I've got a Peak, absolutely. And Inky's a she, by the way, and that's okay. You didn't know, but so yeah, the Peak is absolutely an amazing synth. Now the thing about the Peak is it's a digital oscillator, so everything's all created by FPGA computer chips. But everything else about it is all analog. So the filter's analog and all that part's analog. So it's kind of like a hybrid. And it sounds really, really good. So
yeah, I guess I just bookmarked that. So I've got 3 new synths to look at.
Oh, you'll have more than that. Let's recommend synths for Michael, and he'll be there for the rest of the week looking at them all.
And I think we chatted offline about this a little bit, but I almost feel too like I wish software was a little bit more stable and a little bit more sturdy. Where you could. I've got tons of soft synths, tons of them. And they're way cheaper, obviously. But you just can't. The idea of bringing a computer to a gig, I just can't do it.
I think that's the big thing. I don't use VSTs or soft synths very much myself. I've got them. I've got Native Instruments Complete, Ultimate. I've got a heap of Arturia stuff. I've got Roland Cloud subscription. So I've got access to heaps of that stuff, and I hardly ever use it because I don't usually produce in the box. I actually master and mix in the box. That's where I do my computer stuff, and I find that way that my music is. We were talking about this offline the other day. My music is kind of more sort of sound crafty, maybe sort of gaming or maybe moviescape, that sort of stuff. So I'm not really sort of trying to get a #1 record or anything like that, and I couldn't care less about that sort of stuff. So in the end, I want it to sound electronic, but at the same time I don't want it to sound clinical and like it's been developed by a computer. I want it to sound organic, like it's had the human touch. It's got love in it. So
sure,
it's got feeling. So,
sure.
yeah.
I mean, with the songwriting that we do, I work with 2 other groups too. Besides I'm used to doing original music. So I've got 2 projects going, and soft synths are really convenient for a song. You're like, oh, I know what can do that thing that I need, and you just go in, you grab it, and you do it, and it's in your DAW right away, and it's really, really convenient for writing and recording. That's why I kind of tend towards the VSTs for that, but I would never do that for live.
Yeah, and I think even Spectrasonic with their
I have that. I have Omnisphere or whatever it's called.
And that latest update that they did, where they're basically saying plug pretty much any of those latest synths, like the System 8 or even the DeepMind. You could plug any of those into their Omnisphere, and Omnisphere would take on the characteristics of that synth, which then make you able to sort of be hands-on with Omnisphere. And apparently a lot of people are saying that's been a really, really big leap for them, and it's made Omnisphere a lot more musical in that sense.
Right, because you're using the banks for the keyboard, but you're using the power of the Omnisphere, like the different engines for making chaos and things like that.
Yep.
I think that's the idea, which is really cool.
So you're tactile, but you're using your grunt of your computer.
Right.
Which we all know synths don't have grunt in them. So.
And Eric Pearsing of the Spectrasonics, he'll be at a show with a computer, and it's no problem because he's set it up all morning, and it works for the show.
Yeah, he always makes things look good.
Yeah.
You buy it thinking, I'm going to be like Eric, and Eric's, just so we all know, Eric designed sound patches in the D50, the Roland D50, the famous digital synth that they've brought out in the 1980s. So he's been doing this stuff before I even left school. This guy's got so much knowledge behind him, so it does make everything look easy. But I think that Omnisphere is a representation of what is inside that guy's mind. It's literally, he's just kind of developed something that's in his head, and he said, I think synthesizers should do this, and he's gone, blah. And there it is. And like everyone's gone, what?
Yeah. Well, have you ever tried Stylus?
Yeah.
The drum, that's the example exactly what you just described. It's what he wants to use. It works the way he wants it to, but I had to ditch it. Like, I've got music that's 7-8 years old that I wanted to bring back because I never released it, and bringing up Stylus RMX, and it doesn't work with anything new. You have to work with the it's a sequence. So like everything is triggered one after the other. So when you're DAW, the MIDI is just a trigger. It's not actually a representation of what note you're playing or anything like that. So it was very, very difficult for me to take stuff out of Stylus and then like ditch it completely. So that's an example of what Eric's mind, kind of went the wrong way.
Yeah. I did, yeah. I've heard that as well. So Michael, we were talking about your needs, and so one of the things that you, I mean, I'll get you to say it in your own words in a sec, but basically what you were saying to me is you want to start, and you've got your rock band and they do covers and everything, but you want to start introducing some more keys, more electronic into your sound. And you want to, you show us again what you got, your pedal from Keith Macmillan, and just tell us a little bit about what it is that you want to achieve. And we as a group, live chattings and me and everything, we can start throwing ideas at you, mate. So I'll give you
fantastic.
The floor.
Thank you. So I've got this Keith Macmillan 12-step, which I haven't had time to. I've been preparing for the gig, so I haven't had time to actually get it in my setup because it's going to be post 4th of July gig. But the idea is that either I'll put the bass on the 12-step and I'll be hitting the bass notes with my foot, and then I'll grab the Juno with my hands and play the keys, or the opposite. Where I'll have a pad or something on the Juno, which I'll trigger with my feet. And you can do chords or just single notes with this. You can set it up so that it plays whatever you want. Depending on the song, I'll switch back and forth. And the Juno, I think, is probably the right thing for a cover band because it covers a lot of ground. The Who sounds that I need to get are in there. With some patches I bought off SynthCloud. But I don't have it all working yet. So that's why I'm kind of in this area, kind of figuring things out. But looping is a thing, how do you, I think you may have some thoughts on that. What product might work for me, but an analog looper, like, where is it? have the typical Boss looper pedals. I've tried them all, and they're not really good for a band setting unless you're setting the whole tone for the whole loop and everybody's following you, because it'll never sync up 4 bars in. No matter how good you are with your foot hitting the one when you trigger the loop to stop and repeat. And then there's pads on the Roland Juno DS where I could put a background track. That's another way to go, and I know some people do that successfully. So just kind of looking for advice of how do you get be able to play 2 instruments at once, loop one versus the other, and actually work in a live band setting. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
So just so everybody knows, Michael's YouTube channel is in the description of the live stream. So if you're able to scroll down below, there should be his link to his channel if you want to check him out. But don't go just yet, because we want you here, of course. And we want you to also recommend some stuff for Michael. Now, I had a bit of a think about your situation, and I definitely think Triple A Berg said grow some more arms. That could be an option. Octopus.
Second brain might help too.
But we talked about, you've already got an iPad, so you could definitely use the iPad. Now, iPad as a music tool is getting bigger and bigger and bigger as a sophisticated music tool, and they're pretty reliable. So there's the iPad as an option. Now, once you go down the iPad route, probably the first one I'd look at would be Korg Gadget as a sequencer type thing. So the Korg is in the synth company, make an app called Gadget, and now that can MIDI, they can send MIDI out. Their sequencers in there can send MIDI out, so you could sequence your Juno DS through Korg Gadget. Also, you'll need AUM, Alpha Uniform Mic, AUM, I think it is. It's like a mixer / recorder / MIDI patcher. It's kind of like a toolbox that you'll definitely need, because if you're going to start using iPad, you'll need some of that stuff to be able to get out and get into your iPad, basically. So AUM's it's like a toolbox, like it's probably the best way of saying it. Now, so that may need some sort of audio interface. Now, if you've already got a computer-based audio interface that is class compliant, like for example, I've got an Arturia Audio Fuse, which is just a standard audio interface, and it's class compliant. Right. You plug it literally straight into that camera connection kit, and then bang, you've got a way of recording external gear into it and all that sort of stuff. Now, that may all be you need to do what you want to do on stage. That will then give you the ability to do looping, that will give you the ability to do sequencing, and that's just one way that you could look at doing it. And because you've already got the iPad, that's actually probably a cheap way for you. And
maybe trigger thing, because you said it's class compliant, maybe trigger something with the Keith McMillan foot.
Yeah, definitely. Now, the Audio Fuse is just an example, but there are a couple of audio interfaces that have got USB hubs built into them, so that you're not actually having to then buy another USB hub, and then you've got all these dongles flapping about everywhere at the back of your iPad. One of the things I like about Audio Fuse is that you can plug a couple of audio and MIDI sort of things into it, and it just appears in your iPad. It's awesome. So check out Audio Fuse.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm bookmarking that right now.
Yeah, it's a bit pricey. But at the moment they've actually come probably almost half what they used to be originally when they first came out. So they're probably only around about the $450 mark, if I remember rightly, in the US dollar sort of. Yeah. Which is a little pricey for an interface, but just remember that they.
600. Yeah, it's $599 US.
Okay, they actually gone up a bit. They were down to about $450 at one stage. So maybe a couple of weeks when they have the end of financials, you might be able to get them cheaper. But what I was going to say, it's not just when you get an Audio Fuse, it's not just an interface with a USB hub in it. It's also got control voltage. It's got light pipes. So it's got SPDIF connections in it. It's massive. So there's more to it than that. So it might be too much. You can look at something simpler. as an
Oh,
option.
yeah, I was going to say that everything's a trade-off. You know, like if something does one thing better and not something else not as good,
Yeah.
or even troubling. So, like the iPad, the first problem right away is, you know, we use it for set lists and lyric sheets.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to have that up. So using that as a something you're going to trigger something off of, you have to have the screen up all the time, which means you need power. So that was my second question: is you know, like, how do you handle power for the iPad and the camera connector kit if you need it, and you know, all those things come up.
Yeah. On my channel, I did a video where I was giving a solution on how to mobile power a Electron Octatrack. Now, this is completely unrelated to what you're asking about, but there's actually a power brick unit that I've recommended for the powering of the Octatrack. And if you check that video out, see if you can find something with similar specs to that. Obviously, I mean, I got this thing from Australia, so that it won't be available where you are, but if they're fairly standard, the specs on it, that thing is absolutely like rock solid when it comes to having enough juice. Like battery powered stuff, it has to have wattage behind it. You can't just have heaps of battery, but it doesn't have enough, you know, juice in it to power bigger things. So one of the things with the newer iPads especially is they draw a lot of power. They've got bigger CPUs and things like that in them. So that one definitely would be good for that, because it was powerful enough. I think it does 65 watts, which is pretty big for a battery.
Well, I'd love to go look back at that video. What was the product called?
So on my channel, I did a video called mobile powering an Electron Octatrack, something like that. You can check it out.
Great, thank you.
And there's a battery unit on there, which is awesome. That's how you get around the powering of the iPad issue, and it's USB based, so it just powers it off of USB, so that's fine.
Because Apple has a little splitter that you can do power and a headphone off of the thing, but you can't put any USB through the second thing. It only does audio.
Yeah. So the camera connection kit, the one that I keep telling you, that you probably have to use, that actually already has the power and the USB as a separate connection. So it won't take up your USB connector. You can just plug it into the power, and you've still got the USB connector as separate. So that would be cool. There's a few.
Apple
there's a few
another
other
$40.
Yeah, exactly. There's a few other people that do similar things as this as well. So,
right.
Questions in the chat were saying, can you work? Can work without a computer? I think they're asking something else. That's okay. We'll skip that.
So the other thing about iPad too, I know as a developer, is any app can be dumped at any point. The iPad thinks that memory needs to go somewhere else, so it does its own triage for priority, and it literally can dump something at will. Now, anything running in the background, it tries to keep, because it knows you're trying to do that. But it's that scares me, because I make apps, and I know that my app can just die at any moment because of another app.
Yeah, so that's probably where I was going to go next, and that was to say that if you do go down the iPad rabbit hole, then obviously it's just like having a computer. You're just going to have problems associated with that device, and it can actually be really troublesome. I've seen people swear that it's awesome and it's stable as anything, and I've seen other people say, no, I wouldn't touch it. So it's really, it can be a risk. So, but that was just one solution for you. The other one I think I mentioned to you the other day was to get something like, I used this as an example, which is the Akai MPC Live.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now that's exciting, because that's a piece of hardware that that company knows what they're doing.
That's a piece of hardware. There's nothing else it's doing. There's no firmware updates that they'll just force that if you want to do a firmware update, you have to do that yourself. If there's a firmware update and it breaks it, then don't apply that firmware update. So it's completely standalone, which makes this thing, awesome. And it's completely battery powered if you want it to be. And you can power it through the power as well. And the battery on this lasts about 8 hours. So it's a really decent battery in here. It's touchscreen. And, it's all the standard quality that Akai stuff is made of. But not only that, in the back, It's got, I mean, this is not an ad for Akai, so Akai, you should be sending me some money. You can see all those connectors in the back of it there. Now, you probably won't see it so well, Michael, but it's got 2 MIDI ins and 2 MIDI outs. Okay, so the actual MIDI ins. It's got 2 USB 3 inputs. It's also got a USB 3 output that you connect to your computer and do a whole bunch of other crap with it. It also has the 2, what do you call it, 1/8 inch jacks plus 4 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch jacks, what am I saying? Plus the 4 1/4 inch inputs as well. So this thing can be, you can use it like a mixer to bring multiple instruments together, you know?
Right. And that's does looping as well as triggering?
Does looping, sampling, sequencing, MIDI sequencing, internal clip launching, so you could load your own drum samples in there and you could have, I mean, think of any drum beat. It's been sampled before. Load them up. There's sample packs you can buy. Just chuck them up there. I had like a Led Zeppelin drum kit running off of that once, and it sounded like Led Zeppelin were playing in the room. It was amazing. They've got they've recently just launched an update with Splice, which are a massive sample database that you can purchase or download. Free stuff is also purchase stuff. I mean, this thing's really, really big, but at the same time, you don't have to use all of it. I don't use all of it. You can use parts of it to benefit you. The only thing is, we're starting to now get into maybe $1,000 territory for you.
It's $11.99 US.
Yeah,
look,
you can get them used. Some people buy them and think, I can't use it because it's too hard. So you can get them used and they've only touched them for a couple of weeks, and they're usually a couple of $100 cheaper. So yeah, MPC Live. I know I talk about it a lot. I give it a lot of probably love. It does have its problems, but I don't think you will ever meet those problems for the needs that you're talking about. The people that have problems with it are the people that are like using it and pushing the absolute crap out of it. So, you know.
Right.
The thing,
where they probably need to go software at that point.
Yeah, they're just being idiots, and they're just, look, I made it break, or I made it crash, or I ran out of memory, you know. Like, they're just really pushing it. And you're from doing a rock, performance, you're probably just going to have a couple of tracks in the background, a couple of samples playing,
Yep. And you trigger them.
It will be super, super stable for that.
Yeah, and one of the cool things I need to be able to do is trigger parts of samples, like not a whole song worth, but like, okay, the chorus is coming, and when the singer's ready, then I got to trigger that section. It might be a cool pad or synth, back thing that I want to trigger, and then get back to the bass. But you can't just play the whole song with a whole track. So that's why the MPC would be great.
Yep, and you can just have that sequence looping, or you can just press stop and it stops it.
Right.
Or you can just have it so that it launches clips, and once those clips are just single play, once the clip finishes playing, it stops. It doesn't play anything else. And it can actually be your master clock as well. So you could have other stuff connected to it via MIDI or via USB, and that can be your master clock as well. So that could set the tempo. You can also have, remember how it's got the outputs? You could send a click track through to all your...
I was just going to ask that. I literally was just going to ask that.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Like send the click to the in-ears of a drummer.
Yep. You can do that.
So he can have it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So, to me, that's probably, getting at the professional level, that would probably be a really nice thing for you. But the other thing too is you can plug your Keith McMillan thing into that, because it's got the 2 USB ports, and you can actually plug a USB hub into it too. You're not limited to the 2. You can plug a hub in and it can take more. I've seen guys who have got 3 or 4 controllers running into the MPC Live and mapped things in, because it's got a MIDI mapping section. It's amazing. It's all GUI, touchscreen, map this, do that. It's so easy, and you just basically twist a knob. Okay, that's now registered that, map it to whatever you got. You know what you're doing because you're a programmer. You know exactly what that happens. So, yeah. There's a video of me doing it on my channel too with a Novation launch control. So I've got the MPC Live and the launch control next to it, and I've gone and shown one of my tracks that I released earlier this year, and I've shown how you can manipulate that track just without changing sequence, literally just, fading, because each sequence can have multiple tracks in it, so you can fade tracks in and out. Also, it's massive what this thing can do. But this, let's not go into there because it's another rabbit hole of discussion.
Yeah, no kidding.
So there's that. What are the guys talking about in chat?
I'm looking what Inky said. She's got a comment here. You could power pedal off it and trigger things through it MIDI channels. Yeah.
So the MPC Live, the USB actually sends power through it too, so you can power things off of it. That's what she's saying. So when it's on battery, the Keith McMillan thing would be powered off of the MPC Live. So,
right.
So you wouldn't need to worry about that. And when you're on stage, you've got power anyway, so you can,
Oh, you'd be surprised.
You can, if you do have it, but if you don't, you've got 8 hours of battery. So, and the other cool thing too is if you lose power on stage, that thing still goes. So as soon as it loses power, it's like a laptop; it just keeps going.
Yeah, all the amps are going out though.
Yeah, you get battery-powered amps. No, everyone's just starting to play acoustic now.
I can't tell you how many times we go to a club and there's one plug way on one side near the bar or something, and they're like, can't you use that? And then there's one 50 feet the other way, and that's all there is for the whole friggin' stage. And they have bands there every week, and they still don't care.
You have to use you have to bring your 600 meter extension cord or whatever 1,000-foot extension cord.
It's to the point where multiple people in the band are bringing their own extension cords and power strips.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So anyway, there's 2 or 3 things that you could do. Other than that, you could be looking at the looper pedal market. And I think we talked off air about Roland's one, which we both agreed was probably not for you.
The one with the 4 switches.
Yeah, the RC. There's 2 of them. There's an RC505 and an RC202, I think they're called. So they're okay.
See the one that I have.
Yeah.
So the 1, 2, and the 3 are very similar, and there's something better about one versus the other. And I have the one that I like the best. It's a single switch, and then I also I get this. I think we talked about this a little bit offline. It has you can add. Instead of double clicking something, you assign the B pedal to like stop, or you assign the A to something else, and that helps a little bit with the looper pedals. But the 4 switch one is terrible because you got to hit with your foot 2 switches to do some of the features that you use frequently. It's totally bad. Although it does have a memory card, it's a wicked pain to get it to put songs in it. You can't just plug the card into the computer, throw some MP3s. You actually literally got to hit record on the pedal, and your audio in real time, and it records the sample into the card. That's the only way to do it. Even though there's a librarian for the computer, it's only after the fact. It's totally stupid.
So there's guys who use looper pedals, and there's all sorts of looper pedals out there. There's Electro Harmonix have got one, for example, that I can think of, and there's heaps, and there's people that have made their careers on looper pedals. There's got one guy that's I'm trying to think of his name off the top of my head. It's slipped my mind, but anyway, I'll work it out in a sec. Getting back to the ones that I was talking about, I know we didn't love them, but it's called a Boss, Roland Boss, same company. It's called an RC505, and it's called the Loop Station. And there's 2 versions. There's an RC505 and an RC 303. Is that right? I thought it was a 202. Yeah, no, I think it might be an RC202. Let me just double check. It doesn't really matter because the 505 is the one you'd get. You wouldn't get the small one. Yeah, the 202 is the smaller one. So the 202 is literally just got 2 loop, kind of channels as such, and that might be enough for you. But the 505 has 5. So
right, I'm looking at that now. Yeah.
Now these things are quirky in the way you use them. But if you're used to looping, you might find that this is okay. But there's some things that the 505 has got in it that the 202 doesn't. Like it's got MIDI stuff in it, and there's more under the hood. But go check that out. There's heaps of videos on that already, so that could be all you need. I don't know. One of the things I don't like about it though is it's like all loopers. You have to build. Do you know what I mean? You've got to play something and then build on it, and then you've got to make sure that you get the timing and everything right. So there's a trick to it. If you're not good at that, then yeah.
And doing the undo and redo too is helpful. You turn something off, turn it back on. So
Yeah.
I've seen people get good with that. The one thing though is that some people prepare the undo beforehand. So before the song, they'll play the thing that they're gonna bring back in. So they don't have to build that part, and then they undo that and bring that thing back in, and it's like it comes magically from nowhere. I've seen that.
Yeah, awesome.
But
just wanted to say a quick shout out to a couple of other people that have jumped into chat that I haven't said hi to. Wagyu, how you going? And also Ken Flux from Flux With It is also in. Nice to see you, Ken. Awesome to have you here. So yeah, we were kind of just sort of helping Michael out with his, where he wants to develop his sound further, and he's saying that he wants to look at maybe looping or maybe even sequencing and having some sort of flexibility with that. So there's a few ideas there, definitely. And look, in terms of I mentioned the MPC Live. There's other sequence samplers. There's the Deluge. From Synthstrom, which are a New Zealand company, which is it's insane, that thing, and it's probably just as powerful but different, but able to do all the stuff that MPC Live is, but also a whole bunch of other stuff. It's probably more how would I say? I'd say it's probably more kind of suited for people who are tinkering with sequences, whereas with you kind of want to step back. You want to just kind of maybe have a foot controller that launches something, step back, play your bass. You don't want to be hands on with this thing. So I think that's probably why the MPC Live might be better for it. I don't know, but guys will definitely jump into chat there. And the good thing about chat is anything that we've missed, it's on the live playback, so we can always go back and check some of the recommendations those guys have mentioned in there. They've been very, very helpful. I can see like syncing things to MIDI, and they're talking about Electro Harmonix as an option there. Definitely check out that Electro Harmonix looper. Is actually pretty cool. There's a couple that they've got. They've got some really good gear, Electro Harmonix. So yeah, and not only that, but you get his crazy 9-volt battery. Have you seen that?
No.
The Electro Harmonix guy. I can't remember his name, but every time you buy one of their pedals, you get one of his ugly mugs on the battery. They always go flat really quick as well.
Oh, that's funny. Cool. So, just scrolling through the chat here, someone was saying, where is it? Electro Harmonix. What? Like they're saying that you might have said the name of it.
The pedal. I can't
Someone
remember.
Someone was agreeing that was a good choice.
I can't remember what I said now. Did I actually say the name of it?
I don't know. So it's, the person in the chat is just referring to it as the Electro Harmonix.
45. There's heaps. Which is the one that I liked? 45,000, I think, is the one I liked. It's pretty complex though.
Okay.
I think it's the 45.
Oh god,
45.
there's a 90-something thousand, 95,000.
Yeah, that thing's pretty cool. That's the most powerful ever. No, I think it's the 45 that I liked. And there's also there's another one that's kind of like a cut down version. I think it's called the 22500 or something. They all kind of have limitations as well, but the one that I get the most people telling me that they like it the most is the 45,000.
Okay.
But you never know. Even the 720 stereo looper might be good enough. It's like It does 10 independent loops.
Right.
And you can do unlimited overdubbing, so it just records over and over and over and over itself, which they all should do because they should have, loop back inside them. But yeah, one of them definitely has MIDI and control on the back, which is what you probably want to look at getting. And I've got my head turned this way because my screen's over here, so I'm just trying to find a better photo of the 45,000. Anyway, I can't remember off the top of my head, but go check that out.
Yeah, I just bookmarked it on Sweetwater. So even the 95,000 is only 550. So they got Roland beat for pricing for sure.
Yeah, and their stuff is a little bit more quirky than Roland. So they have that guitar market. They really do. So they know guitar is probably, I'm going to get killed for saying this, probably better than Roland do. Because when you think about it, they make guitar pedals, right? Yeah. And Roland makes synthesizers, and they make printers, and they make video switches. They'll be making cars soon. Who knows what they'll be making?
But they do have Boss, so I'd say that Boss is a bigger pedal company than EHX for guitars, even. So
yeah,
I don't know.
True. Let's not sink them just yet. Boss are pretty good, I have to admit.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many Boss pedals I've owned over the years.
Yeah, I mean, look, one of my favorite pedals of all time is a Boss pedal. It's an analog PH1R phaser pedal from Boss that I've got from the 1980s, and the thing is beautiful. It's just... I
do have a cautionary tale, not to talk bad about a company specific, but this probably applies to any of the modern pedals like EHX or TC Electronics versus a Boss pedal. A Boss pedal, you can leave that thing on for 24 hours a day and it's fine. You know what I mean? Like, you can forget to turn your pedal board off, the power on it. Yep. Come back the next morning and you can just turn the board off and it's fine. TC Electronics, I've had 3 pedals fry because they were left on too long. And it's something about their circuitry is just not tested in that way. So if you do own them, they're awesome. I love TC Electronics, like what they do, their philosophy for pedals. It's great. But they just don't hold up. Like, you gotta unpower those things.
Wow.
So just for fun, what I did, because I felt it was good karma, I took one of the fried pedals and I gutted it and I stuck a switch on the top where the knobs used to be, and I put the power into that thing and made a switch so that I could turn my pedal board off without having to go to the wall. Just because I fried 2 pedals the night before and wanted a whole different date. So I thought that every time I see it, I get the little switch on a TC pedal that was previously a good pedal.
It's never a good day when you fry a pedal, that's for sure. Wagoo's mentioned Pigtronix as a company, Pigtronix. Make a, I don't know if they make a couple of pedals, but they make this one called the Infinity Looper. I don't know if you've seen that. So he's saying to check that one out. Wagoo, can you just confirm if it's the Infinity Looper that you're talking about? Or maybe they've got other ones as well. And also Ken Flux with it is also recommending the Zoom has got a fairly nice looper. The Zoom pedal. Zoom makes some good pedals. The Japanese company.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of Zoom pedals. Definitely qualities there with Zoom for sure.
And you get a ton for the price too. They're really good value with the Zoom.
Oh dear. Triple A Berg's saying, Michael, did you turn it to 11?
Yes, always 11.
If it doesn't go to 11, it's not a good pedal.
This is one louder.
Yeah. So, okay. So, do you guys? I think we've been chatting quite a long time about the stuff. Do you guys want to start talking about control voltage? Or are we still talking about pedals? Whoever joined us today, I think Triple Eight Berg was the guy that mentioned that he wants to know a little bit more about control voltage. Now, I will definitely put my hand up and say there's a guy in this channel right now who is an absolute genius when it comes to control voltage, and that's Ken Flux with it. So I'm glad he's here because he can tell me that I'm a complete fool when I say things wrong. We're not worthy if you can. But no, it's just joking. So what I've got here is the Neutron and I've got a little patch going, and I'll just hold it up to the camera so you can see. I'm just using pitch and gate out the back of the key step, and you'll also notice there's a little sync wire plugged in. I'll talk about that in a sec. It's not actually needed for this particular thing. So this is real basic stuff. Real basic. So we're not doing high level. We're just doing basic. And you know, I know the Neutron has a MIDI input on here, so we could just plug the key step into the MIDI and everything will be nice and easy. But that's not what we're here about. We're actually literally only using control voltage. Now, one thing I want to say is with the key step, if you've got one, where are we? I'm going to show you my Mac screen for a sec because there's an app. Here we go. Transition. Okay, there's an app on the key step called the MIDI Control Center. It's from Arturi's website. In fact, the MIDI Control Center controls a whole bunch of stuff. But in here, you've actually got CV gate settings. You can see it there. And in the CV gate settings, make sure you set your CV gate settings to something like what I've got here. For most of the Eurorack stuff, you're going to be your CV is going to be volts per octave, and your gate is probably going to be 5 or 12 volts. I actually haven't touched that yet, and it's been working, so I don't know whether that's right or wrong. Your 0 volt MIDI note I've got as C0. I found that worked, so yeah, I don't know why, but that works. Anyway, so that's the software side of it, and all of that, once you've set that, you can then go back to here and you can then actually start playing notes. Now, so that's just an arpeggiator running on the key step. Now, so let's talk about how I'm actually plugging the CV pitch and gate in. So what we're going to do is we're going to strip out all of the stuff that we don't need, because that's all kind of complex. So the first thing we don't need is we don't need sample and hold. We'll move that out. We don't need the sample and hold again. We'll move that out. So all we're left with are 3 cables going on the input here. So you notice the Neutron has got the input side and the output side. The only output I've got is the sound, the audio. Okay, so don't worry about output. And you can see it's got I've split it between the oscilloscope and what you guys can hear in your ears. Okay, so out of the back of the key step, I've actually split the CV into 2, and you don't have to do this, you can just have it into 1, but I've got it split into 2, so that way I've got 2 envelope gates running, and I've got one envelope that's on the VCA and I've got another envelope that's on the VCF. Okay, and that way the envelope is triggering at the same time for both the filter and the amp, and that's how you get That's how you're getting that. I just turn the modulation off. There you go. All right, so the other one is the pitch. That goes into your oscillator. And on the Neutron, you can choose between oscillator 1 or 2 or oscillator 1 and 2. In this case, I've decided to do it that. Isn't it nice of them that they've done that, oscillator 1 and 2? So, I mean, if they didn't do that, we would have to split it and, you know, you'd have to have 2 cables going in there. So that's cool. So, 888 Berg, that is pretty much basically all you need to get your controller controlling gate and pitch, okay? And then on top of that, the rest becomes kind of how you decide to go further with it. So all I did before was I was playing with the sample and hold circuit on the the neutron. So I want out of there into the frequency mod of the filter. Now I can control the sample and hold rate with this knob here. But what if I actually wanted the sample and hold rate to be the same beat as my sequence or my arpeggiator? And that's why I had that little third cable coming out the back of the key step, which was the sync cable. And I plugged that into sample and hold clock. Bang. And I've got a little splitter cable here. The Tip Top Audio ones are great. And I've done that so that I can share the clock with the clock in on the delay of the magneto. So as a result, now we can do this. So you can see here, if I move the cables out of the way, the sample and hold rate is actually beating at the same time as the sequencer. And then also, the tap on the magneto is the same as well. So that's all control voltage. Okay, I need to quickly check into chat to see if I've missed any questions. Right. Okay, what I originally meant was the neutron looks so intricate. Cool. Right. Let's double checking chat to make sure I haven't missed any questions. Okay, looks like... So Ken's saying 0 volt, you likely want to adjust the taste, some digital modules, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. Okay, so one of the things that you're going to notice with control voltage is once you start working only with control voltage across a multi-octave keyboard controller is that it doesn't keep it perfectly in tune. And this is going to be something that happens well on some and bad on others. So for example, if I go... You can hear already that's going out of tune. See that? See how it kind of gets sickly up the upper octaves? And then when you go in the lower octaves, the waveforms are starting to sort of sound noisy. And that's how you know that's going out of tune as well. So there's ways that you can fix that, and when you start getting into UARAC, you can get tuning modules, you can get all sorts of things that will fix that. So don't think it's done and that's it. It's going to sound terrible all the time. It's definitely something that can be easily fixed in UARAC. I'm not going to go into that in this video because that's really kind of starting to get to the next stage and it's becoming more advanced. But just to get people going, that's really what control voltage is. So yeah, questions? What did you think of that, Michael? Did that sort of
explanation?
Trying to keep it simple, yeah. So one of the things I think that a lot of people don't understand about control voltage is it's actually really simple. So we've got that volt per octave system. There's other systems. I think Korg used the hertz per volt. So there's a different system again, and it's becoming, sort of to do with the electronic world basically. But volts per octave is actually really easy. It's like for every volt, so you start at 1 volt, then you go to 2 volt, that's gone up an octave. And anything in between is going to be all of the notes are going to be 1/12 of that volt. Right. So it's it's just maths. It's actually pretty easy. And the good thing about voltage is that it doesn't have to be 1/12. You can micro tune, right? Because you could have any voltage in between 1 and 2 volts, couldn't you?
Right.
You know, they can go really fine, and so micro tuning can go to the nth degree. So that's where, you know, sometimes Eurorack and stuff like that can actually be a little bit more freer than MIDI, you know, as an example.
Detune something a little bit and just get a fatness you wouldn't get otherwise. You know?
Yeah. So Ken's saying that Neutron CV should track fine across 8 octaves. You know, it probably does. I haven't probably set it up properly either. So just hand in the air, just knowing I've only just had this thing, as you guys know, for a couple of weeks. So I'm still learning it, and I'm having. I only bought this. I didn't really buy it for the synth, even though it's got one. I bought it more for the, you know, the functions in it. So it's got, you know, 2 attenuators. People don't know what attenuator. All these terms, right? We get, as musicians, we get dumped with all these terms, and we have to learn them. And you know, sometimes it becomes too hard. What is an attenuator? Basically, an attenuator is, I think, the easiest way to think of it. It's like the opposite of an amplifier. So it's kind of, when you have it fully open, it lets the signal through, but when you start, it's closing, you know, it's shrinking that amplification. It's kind of the opposite of an amplifier. That's the way I see it. And obviously there's a need for that with certain things in Eurorack. So you know, you're basically you're increasing the resistance or reducing the amplification. And this is where you can kind of start to get down a rabbit hole of learning a little bit about electronics and audio engineering and waveforms and all this sort of stuff and voltage and that. It becomes crazy. So yeah, I don't know. It's you know, you've got things like slew on here. What does that do? But all of these things have definite functions that once you start getting into Eurorack, you want to use them. And I think I mentioned in the video a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about this Neutron, I was going to buy the Behringer, what do you call it, the CP or C something 250, which is basically, it's like a module that you can use for your Moog pedals. And I love Moog pedals. I've got about 4 or 5 of them. And it gives you all these extra features like, you know, you can double up LFOs and things like that. You can, you know, it's got clock dividers and things like that in there. And it was, the price of that compared to this was a couple of $100 difference. And all of these features were on here. Plus I got a synthesizer. So, you know, these are the decisions that we make. And it was just sitting, it'll just be sitting on my desk as a little box that I have to plug a DC power connector into it. And it wasn't even modular, whereas this became modular. And I've already started with Eurorack, so, you know, there you go. Yeah, so with the tuning that I was talking about, I wasn't specifically talking about the Neutron when I was talking about how you can go across octaves. It's not necessarily the Neutron. So what Ken's saying is that you can run a tuning routine on it and it will fix up the tuning so that it should be safe across 8 octaves. So it's good that he's here.
He's also saying that the key step has HPV mode.
It does, yeah. Yep. So if you want to see that, I've got it here. Boom. Yeah. So there's volts per octave there, and there's hertz per volt there. And don't forget too, you can actually change the maximum CV voltage in this thing too. This thing can pump out 12 volts if you want, but 5 volts is probably norm. Okay, so so there you go. And 888 Berg, because he was the guy that requested this, we're going to kind of just double check to make sure we are giving him what he was after. Yeah, it looks like we have. Cool. Let us, 888 Berg, let us know if there's any other questions you've got, mate. I know it was pretty basic, what I did, but as you guys know, you know, this is what my channel is about. It's, you know, if you've got a question and you want me to check something out, I've got the gear. I'll do it on my next live stream for you guys, you know. So I love doing that sort of stuff. It's cool. Okay, so while we're waiting for him to answer, So Inky's saying that she's heard the key step wanders as in like drifts in pitch more than others. I think it depends on the synth too. I was playing around with instead of the Neutron, I was playing around with the Model D Bogue one, this one, and it was different. It behaved differently to the Neutron, and they're made by the same company, but actually, kind of not. Funny enough, so the Neutron's made, I believe. Ken, you could probably chime in here, mate. They made the Neutron in the Midas factory, I believe. So the Midas team were behind all this, and the Model D was made in their Chinese factory. They've got the Chinese team behind this one. So I could be wrong, but I do believe there's different dev teams in some of their synths, from what I know, because I've actually been talking to one of the devs with the MS-101, and we've been talking about making the sequencer on the MS-101 get some more features in it. And there's actually a feature in the original SH-101 that wasn't put into the MS-101, and we want to try and sort of get that added in too, which is to do with transposing. So we're working with them in that. Yeah. Just double checking. So so people have definitely noticed that the key step does it. In terms of control voltage controllers out there, have you guys got anything different? I mean, 888 Berg, I think, was talking about him having the Keylab, which is another Arturia product, so I'm pretty certain that would have the same brains in it as the key step. But other brands, like I think Akai made one that have got control voltage in the back, and Novation have got one that's got control. Any of you guys using that? So let us know. I know the two most popular are key step and the beat step, which is it's not the keyboard, it's the the drum pad one. It's beat step Pro. So yeah, I wondered what sort of musicality you get out of CV. Okay, well, what do you reckon, guys? 888 Berg's asking, what do we get out of control voltage musically? So really all it is just gates and pitch in that sense. And then once you start working with the other types of control voltage here, you've got, as I showed you here, you've got the, let me just change to that view. You got your sample and hold, you've got LFOs, and you can, so basically you've got sound, and then you've got things that can modulate that sound, right? So anything control voltage can actually manipulate modulation. So in my case, this is just a real basic example. I'm using the key step to send a pulse out, which is the beat of the sequencer or arpeggiator, to actually control via voltage the timing of the sample and hold rate, right? And then that's going in, and you can hear the sample and hold beating to the sequence, right? So that is control voltage doing that. But at the same time, you could have that same thing controlling the rate of your LFO. You could have it syncing your oscillators, all sorts of stuff that you can get it to do. So yeah. They're talking about Wii CV modules. Has anyone seen those? Are we talking about the gaming console?
Yeah, I don't think they mean the Wii I'm thinking of.
That's what I thought they were talking about. W-double-I.
It's spelled right.
I don't know about that one.
Oh, Wii nunchucks. Yeah. No, they do mean that.
Wow.
Use the accelerometer in the Wii nunchucks. Huh.
I'll have to get my Wii out. Jeez.
You sit there like Jimmy Page, like
That's cool. So Inky's saying the Neutron is designed in Manchester. Model D, I think she means, is designed elsewhere in Germany. So yeah, the German head office of Behringer designed it, but the Chinese factory have the dev team on the firmware and everything. They're in. I can tell you where they are in China. Where's my mate? Okay, he is in. Actually, it doesn't say. If you search for Music Tribe on Google, you'll find there's a factory in China, and it will tell you what town, city in China that's in. So that's where they've got a lot of the actual electronics being manufactured and put together and everything, and they've got like firmware dev teams working there. Triple Eight Berg's asking, so how does the keystet modulate the CV by keys? What difference, as if it was to play a key via MIDI? Okay, so the difference is probably, at the basic level is negligible, right? The MIDI is sending a digital command, and that's been translated inside your synth to doing the same thing as a note and gate, in MIDI. MIDI's a little bit more complex. It's got note, sometimes velocity, things like that as well. Whereas control voltage is literally just an electronic signal going down that wire to pulse the gate, or in terms of pitch, remember what we said before, it's a measurement of voltage which will tell it what pitch to play. So if it's say 0 volts, that might be middle C, and then 1 volt is C1, so that's an octave up. So anything in between 0 and 1 volt, so it's 1.6 volts, would be G flat or whatever, somewhere in halfway through. So that's kind of how that works. Whether that helps you understand what you're getting into, but that's basically it. So how it differences is probably how you use it, as opposed to whether one's better than the other. I don't think that's really what you'd be asking. You'd probably be saying MIDI's been around since the 80s, it's pretty standard, and in this case, the Neutron's got the MIDI input. If all of that stuff that I showed you before is complex, just plug MIDI in and use that. But at the same time, if you're going to start going down the world of Eurorack and control voltage, it's worthwhile learning it, because as I'm just a beginner with this stuff, and I know a little bit about electronics, so it's not sort of unknown to me, but it's unknown to me how to get it to work the way I'm used to producing music. So there you go. MIDI was invented by Roland and sequential circuits. It sure was. Behringer keep inviting people to drop by their Chinese factory, so I'm waiting for the first YouTuber to take a plunge and take them up on their offer. I've been invited there myself, and the only problem I've got is I've got to get myself there. So, once you get yourself there, you could probably sign some sort of waiver with them and start filming. I reckon they'd love it. Yuli would probably be all for it. You'd probably tell you what you can and can't film though, because they've got products in there that they haven't released yet, and they haven't told us about. So, and I know about some of them. So, yeah. No, they tell us about stuff a lot sooner than what a lot of other companies do. But let me tell you, they've still got stuff that you guys don't know about yet. So, but when you do find out about it, you'll be, I kind of had a feeling they'd do that. So it's not kind of anything bizarre. Yeah. All right. So what do you want to do next? Q&A. Michael, have we asked you everything you need to?
Yeah, I feel selfish that I had my questions, and you guys have been very, very helpful. I got a ton of bookmarks, and my wallet is going to hurt. But it's all good.
Yeah, Ken's saying that Behringer's, to their detriment, they wish they wouldn't tell so much so soon. Yeah, in a way, we get disappointed because they say that they're going to make something, and then it's 12, 18 months before we're able to touch it. And even sometimes it's actually probably like 2 years. I can't remember when they first told us that they were going to do an SH-101, replica or clone, and we got them when was it? April, March this year. I know the prototypes were out earlier than that, but the actual public got them around March, April this year. So that was probably about 2 years, I think. Maybe not quite. So yeah. So he's saying
the only bad side about announcing something too early is if they don't follow through with it by the time it comes.
Yeah, I don't know if they've done that yet though. I can't think of an example where they've said that they're going to make something they haven't made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if they set expectations, I think it's great. I love knowing about it early.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we can just be calm about it, like it's just a synth, it's not like,
Yeah. Yeah.
We get excited about gear, absolutely. That's our love.
Plus, it'll keep you from waiting on trying something else in the meantime. You're like, you know what? I'm going to wait until that's out because that might be on my list. So I think it's smart of them to do it.
Yeah, and I think also at the same time, they're using us as a sounding board as to maybe what we think should happen with that product if they were to re-release it. And in a lot of cases, when the SH-101 clone came out, straight away they put the FM mod on, and they made use of the triangle, which is part of the actual VCO. That originally always had a triangle waveform in it, but the actual Roland SH-101 never had access to it. You had to modify it to get access to it. So straight away they put those things in, and then obviously they added MIDI, and the original never had it. So there's all sorts of things that they do. So and that was probably because they went out and said, hey guys, we're going to make a clone of the SH-101. What do you think? And then everyone said, I think it's great, but why don't you do this? And they're getting that for free. They don't have to do secret product development in the background. I think it's very, very clever.
Yeah.
Matthew's saying the Behringer Crave looks interesting. Yeah, I can't wait for them to release that, actually. It's going to be pretty cool. I actually want to get the Crave, and I also want to get the Pro 1, and I want to use them together. Because I think together those two things are going to be pretty powerful. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, you're never going to please everyone in this world. So I think what's the saying? 95% of people are happy and the 5% aren't, and usually they're the loudest.
Oh, wow, yeah. That's an understatement.
Yeah. So in terms of all of us here, we all probably have different musical, backgrounds. We all probably have, some of us have been formally trained, some of us, like me, I did piano lessons when I was a kid, but other than that, I've never really been formally trained, and I kind of hack my way through music. And the way I kind of look at it is we kind of go on our own little journeys, and the thing that I think is absolutely amazing is, although we're all completely different to taste and what we play and everything, this all brings us together, doesn't it? It's awesome.
It's fantastic. I'm similar, just basically self-taught.
Yeah. So what are they saying in chat? There's other products. They're talking about
They're talking about the Euro rack on the Crave, whether it's compatible or not.
What do you guys think? I mean, one of the things I love about what Behringer have done, I know we're giving them a really big rap here, but I mean, the fact that this synthesizer can be Euro-racked and it also can be a standalone desktop module was a pretty decent engineering decision, I think. The fact that you can do that, you've got that option, and it's no cost. Like, you didn't have to go and buy a kit for it, or you literally just undid a few screws, boom, and now it's in your Euro-rack. I think that's clever. And then you've got synths like the Moog have released that Grandmother, and what the new one was called, I forget what it's called, where it looks like it's got all those color panels on it. And I wish they made that so that they were all separate modules that you could pull out. I mean, but it's just one big thing with colored paint on it. And I'll see if I can grab a picture of it while we're talking. Because then you'd have the ability to take modules out and put modules in, and then Moog could produce these modules, and those modules could be Eurorack, for example. So then you could buy them separately. Do you know what I mean? So it becomes more of a function thing. So I don't know. There's some companies kind of miss the boat on stuff like that. So what do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add to that. I just agree with it.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find, I was just going to get you to chat so I could try and find the picture, that's all. I don't know where I put it. I think it might be in here somewhere. Yeah, there it is. Oh, the matriarch was the one I was talking about. Okay. So just give me a sec. I'm going to get that up for you guys. It's a massive big picture and I have to shrink it now. Have you guys ever used OBS Studio? It's an interesting piece of software. And it's actually pretty cool that you can do this. There you go.
On the Mac, but I think you can add one.
Oh yeah. There's a Google Hangouts playing out for it. Yeah. Let me just grab this for a sec. So you can see on here, see how there's all these color panels, and when you look at it, it looks like they're all separate, modular things that you could pull out, doesn't it? So it has that kind of feel to it, but it doesn't. It isn't. It's just one solid thing, I believe. So I just thought to myself, why didn't they make them so that you could pull them out? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that just seems weird. And also make it Eurorack so that it's. I know Eurorack's not the. I know Moog have got their own modular. Yeah. Let's not get into that, I guess, but it's a different argument. There's two different types of, well, there's more than two, but there's two major different types of modular. There's Eurorack and there's the Moog modular thing. You might remember, Keith Emerson with his big, massive modular thing on stage. So that's actually different size form factor to what Eurorack is. So yeah. But I just thought, I don't know what you guys think. I just thought that Moog missed the boat with that.
That's odd. The design language of something modular and it's not modular. That is bizarre.
Yeah. I'm just double checking chat to see if I got it wrong, but it takes a couple of seconds for them to see. Let's see if they picked it up. Then you'd have so Triple H Berg saying then you'd have $1,000 synth missing teeth. So yeah, what he means, like, if you look at this, I've got my Eurorack module here, right? And I've got these big gaping holes in it. That's what he means by missing teeth.
It's obvious. It's got to be a cost thing.
I definitely think it is. It would cost more to make that. Absolutely.
Right.
Waldorf did it. Waldorf made a keyboard, and I think just one row. So I think it's just one row. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think that's one row, which is 3U, right? And this is 6U. This is 2 rows. And their keyboard is just a standard keyboard, and it has MIDI and all that sort of stuff, but it's also control voltage. And then you can just plug your own I'm getting tongue twisted here. You can just plug your own Eurorack modules in it, and you can also, you don't have to buy the Waldorf ones. You can buy your own. It's completely compatible. So I think, yeah. So I've had this discussion with people on forums, and the same sort of reaction is coming out in the chat. So some people are saying, well, it would have made it more expensive if they made that. I think the mother is the other one, not the mother, the grandmother. There's two. There's the matriarch and the grandmother. They're very similar, and it would make them more expensive if they made them as separate modules. But having said that, I mean, define expensive. Do you know what I mean? Like, how much? Do you know how much some people pay for like violins and stuff like that? It's, there's flutes, violins, grand pianos. These sort of things can be 20, 30,000, lots of money. Like they're, cars, small house purchases. In the 80s, you could buy a Fairlight for the same price as a house. So, who would buy a Fairlight? Michael, if you think back in the 80s, would you have been able to afford a Fairlight if it was the same price as a house?
No, even tube amps for guitars I can't even afford. Never mind an awesome synth.
And there's other examples of that, of course, as well. But
plus, those things would break down every gig.
Those things were kind of like they were kind of like a system. So you'd have the actual. They'd put them in studios. People would then go and use them, and then they'd pay to use them. But then they'd have all the support people around it that would come in and repair it and all that sort of stuff. So it was kind of like almost like as if you had an IT department, working for you on the side. That's why those things were so expensive. Right. I think we're spoiled these days. I think things can be very, very misconstrued about how expensive or how cheap they are. And for me, I think we're really lucky. Like, I mean, here's an example, okay? There's an oscilloscope, and it cost me $30. And you go back maybe only 10, 15 years, and oscilloscopes were not $30. They were over $1,000. And they probably didn't even have an LCD screen. They had a CRT screen. They didn't have memory. Just think. I guess it's technology that's developed, but we're pretty lucky where the day and age that we're living in, because a lot of this stuff is really affordable. And so that goes back to what I was trying to say before about the Moog synth. They could have made it so it had those modules. And yes, it would have been more expensive. And yes, some people would have said, no, I don't like that. But then again, you would have had a whole bunch of other people that said, that is brilliant, and I'm going to put my money there. So how do we know? Someone probably would have done market research on it. Everyone's talking in chat the same sort of thing.
Yeah. But Matthew Brown is mentioning about look at the guitar world, but you can buy a Behringer pedal for $40. It does the same thing as a $275 boutique pedal.
Exactly.
It's the same exact thing as the synth world.
Yeah.
Same exact thing.
Where did I get that oscilloscope from? eBay. It's the DS130. I'll find out what it's called again, and I'll let you know. Actually, give me a second. I'll find out, and I'll let you know where I got it from. It's definitely eBay though. It was a kit. I had to actually solder. Have a look at this. Actually, I've got it. I actually filmed myself doing it too, and I never ever released the video because it was just a nightmare. It was like hours and hours of me swearing. But all of this stuff was all soldered in here by me, and what I was completely amazed by was when I first plugged it in and turned it on, it worked. I didn't stuff anything up, so that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's cool. I have a CRT scope that I got to get leads for. My brother-in-law gave me a little while ago. I want to try to incorporate that into the sound setup.
Yeah, I've just ordered myself a Rigol, which is a Chinese, I think, make it. So it's probably one of their bottom end ones. It's about $350 US. It's got about a 7-inch screen on it, 4-channel, and I'll probably have it in a couple of weeks. You guys will start seeing it here soon. The reason why I got it is because the little cheap $30 scope is just not cutting it for resolution. So if you want to zoom into a waveform and have a look at Harmonix and all that sort of stuff, and you want to see what voltages things are, and you've got your matrix, and you can do that with a proper oscilloscope. But this thing, it's not really, this thing's very basic. So.
Yep.
No, it's not Arduino. It's but it's similar to Arduino. It's some other, I forget what the chipset is on it. But yeah, it's similar to Arduino. It's got a proprietary chipset. But you know what? For us making sounds on a synthesizer, that thing, if we just want to see what the waveform looks like, that thing is really cool. In fact, why don't I do this? So, instead of that coming out of the output, no, not that. What do I want? Where is it? That. Whoa, sorry guys. Killer. Do that on live stream and you blast everyone's ears. All right, now, so don't worry about it. What I was gonna show you is on the Neutron you've got the variable waveform thing here, and for some reason it's not working on me. And it actually shows. Let's just take all this stuff out. It's not gonna do it for me. Nah, don't worry about it. Too much trying to do everything on live stream. It's too hard. I was just going to show you how you can actually see the different waveforms merge into each other on it, but I'll do that in another video. It's for another day, and it becomes, you know, a $30 tool that makes things look really, really cool. So, double checking chat. So people are talking about all sorts of stuff in here, judging history by companies, prices. Like for example, Flux with it's talking about Novation have a long-term update on their products. That's actually a really good point. Do you guys, Michael, have you heard of the synth called the Base Station 2 by Novation?
No, I mean I've used Novation, but definitely not that.
Okay, so they've got this synth called the Base Station 2. They released it, Ken will probably remind us when they released it. It was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. It's an analog synth. It was when we started having that new analog mono synth revolution, probably 5 or 6 years ago. So it was one of the first ones that came out. And they actually released 2 firmware updates this year for that same synth that they released 6 years ago.
Oh, good on them. Yeah.
And those 2 firmware updates were huge. One of them made it paraphonic, so that it used to be just a 2 oscillator monophonic synth. So they made it so that it's paraphonic, so you could play 2 notes at once. And then the next update, they did this thing with Aphex Twin. You know Aphex Twin, the band. He's been like fully into electronic music for years, as you know, and he's developed this thing called AFX mode, which basically, if you look at the synthesizer, it's got all the notes across, you know, on the keyboard, and every single note is a separate patch. And so when you play a different note, it's playing a different patch, and it's called AFX mode. And as a result, you can actually sequence that, and you're just sequencing the notes, and you can hear all these different sounds. So it becomes quite percussive. And I've done a video on my channel, so you can check that out. But I mean, that's so. Yeah, Ken's saying the BS2 Base Station 2 dropped in 2013. So what do we? Yeah, 6 years ago. I think I was right with that. So I mean, that's insane. So there are companies that definitely stand behind their products, and to be able to go back into older components and older, you know, electronics, and find space in the programming, and being able to say, right, let's move a bit of code over here, and let's, you know, clean some of white space and free up some memory and blah blah blah. And they managed to get 2 massive firmware updates out of this thing. It would have been pretty big, definitely.
Yeah, my Juno DS, Roland did the same thing. They took a couple things that it was limited by, and they literally, like the memory amount of user writable memory, they doubled it, and they made the pads that didn't work with MIDI in your DAW, they made them work. A couple other things like that, and they didn't have to, because it's not a new device.
Yeah, it's, you know, that's actually rare for Roland to do that too. They
exactly.
In the past, they've actually had a bad reputation for producing stuff and abandoning it very quickly. And there's plenty of examples of synths that they've made, which have made people very, very upset with them over the years. But you're right, they've done that, and also they with the System 8, we thought that was pretty much dead in the water once they finally released the plug outs for that thing. We thought that's it, it's going to be finished. And then they, out of the blue, they put this FM side to it, and now all of a sudden this is an FM synth. I mean, I showed all that the other day on my stream. And then they added another plug out, which is the JX3P, and I don't think they'll do any more. But I mean, that was all free, just like your Juno DS update was. And
Right.
I think they're learning, they're listening. So there are companies that are definitely doing it.
You know, for me, it's like, well, why didn't you allow that writable space from the beginning? You know,
Yeah.
it's in there. Why didn't you give it to us before? You know, but I was very happy.
So it's actually very topical because the guy that I'm talking to at Behringer, he's the actual firmware dev for the MS-101. He's telling me right now he can't put any more stuff on it because he's got no more space.
Right.
It's an ARM Cortex MO CPU on there, and he's literally, reached its capacity. So, and I said to him, well, think about what game programmers had to do in the day with the Commodore 64. They had a 64K computer, and I mean, have you guys ever seen some of the stuff that they did as demos on that thing? The sound and the graphics that they got out of a Commodore 64, because they found ways of finding space and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, there's the 64. Now let's get that full screen. Hang on, let's keep it there.
All right. Let me open the box.
Oh,
One of
mate.
my hobbies is to program these things. So
Keep talking about it.
yeah, so found this at a yard sale recently, or like a flea market, and then quickly got plugged into the community online of people my age that had this as a first computer, and learned about programming assembly, but never really got a full game out of it. But I've since programmed games, and thought I was going to go back and actually make a game on the 64. So I've been doing that, and I get this little card that allows you to jack it into the computer so you can load things in and out.
Is that
And,
the Messiah? Is that the Messiah card?
the card? No, it's Easy Flash. Very popular.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got the drive too. I found a drive and fixed the power supply, which they're usually always broken. I need to recap this one. This one has not been recapped, so I'm expecting it to fail. And I'm going to do the same thing for Atari 2600 too.
All right. So while we're showing off our wares, there you go. Whee!
I'm waiting for it to catch up.
There's the bread bin. The same, but it's the bread bin version. It's the older one.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the video to catch
That's
up.
all right.
Everybody else is seeing
Everyone
it.
is
Yeah.
still seeing it. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So
Yep.
Commodore 64. I've actually got the same as yours as well, which is the
C.
The C, yeah. I've
Yeah.
got that one's in pieces at the moment. I'm actually doing a retro bright on it, but this is my favorite computer of all time. This one.
Oh, I can't wait to see what it is. Like drum roll, waiting for the video
Waiting
to
for
catch
the
up.
stream to catch up. I'll actually tell you what it is. It's a Commodore Amiga 1200.
Ah, yeah, that's neat.
And you can
The
see
8-bit, I think the 8-bit guy had a good run of that. Like showed an hour-long video of him
yeah.
fixing one up.
So you can see flapping about up the top there.
Yep.
That's actually a little SD card hack for it. So
I see it. Yeah.
Because they've got an IDE hard drive, compact flash type, connection on it.
Right.
Where am I going to put this without it falling over? I did a mod on it so that you can actually. When I first did the mod, it was actually a compact flash PCM CIA adapter thing, and then I made the compact flash go internally. And then I got sick of using compact flash cards, which actually are better than SD cards between you and me, but SD cards are easier to get in and out of computers and smaller. So I went with the SD card mod. And that thing is like bigger than anything would have ever been in those days to have. I think the hard drives were, there was no such thing as gigabyte in those days. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it was crazy.
So
But what I'm actually using that for is I've got a MIDI adapter on there. It just uses the serial port for MIDI, and I'm running the MPC Live, which I showed you before, is actually triggering like tracker samples in it, because in those days you used to use trackers, and they were just basically 8-bit or 16-bit samples, and they sounded really crunchy and lovely. And the cool thing about both the 64 and the Amiga is they have analog filters in them.
that's what I was just going to say. Some
yeah.
of the SID chips were analog back in those days.
Yeah, they are. And like the Amiga, the filter in it is a Butterworth filter, so it's beautiful. Like, proper capacitors and everything. So, so I'm kind of triggering. This is a little project that I'm doing at the moment. I'm so triggering the Amiga with the MPC Live. So I've got 2018 hardware with 1990 hardware. It's crazy. It's good fun though. Very geeky though.
Yeah.
Which is me.
So speaking of, announcing things before they're reality and that might never come, I'm actually in Unity trying to make a plugin that I grab a whole bunch of assembly language for the 64 and allow you to develop as a non-programmer in Unity, and pull in all those modules from the assembly language for the 64.
That's awesome.
And I don't know how feasible it is, but I'm trying. I'm collecting, assembly code for all the things you would need to program something, and make a sprites move across the screen, things like that. But we'll see.
Oh, that's amazing. So anyway, I mean, this is my world. This is why I call it the Geekery, because it's just nerdish stuff, and that's what I've always been into: electronics, computers, and music. Always my favorite stuff, and it looks like all you guys are kind of the same. The chat's just gone completely nuts when we brought the 64s out.
Yeah, and there's an Atari. I don't think you can see it off frame too, but I've got an Atari over there and collecting cartridges.
Is that a 2600?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one computer that I used to have when I was a kid that I don't have it anymore, and that's the ST. And it used to run, there was the MIDI sequencing software, which was actually the precursor to Cubase. The same people, I think, they weren't called Steinberg, but before they were called Steinberg, they developed it. There's all sorts of, forums about it. It's really interesting, but I would love to get another one of those. I saw a friend of mine do a video on it. He's not in here at the moment, but you probably would have heard of him. He's what's his name? Woody. He's in
Woody's Piano Shack?
Yeah, that's him. Woody's Piano Shack, and
Yeah.
he's like an English guy, but he lives in Sweden.
Right.
And he got the ST, got it all set up, and he had trouble getting the mouse to work. And then he started trying to show it on his YouTube channel, and then he realized that it was just so bloody hard compared to what he's used to today. But I started with that, and then I think came the PC revolution. So the IBM PCs came out, and I got so I had an Amiga, I had a ST, and then the first computer I got was an IBM PC clone. I think it was like a 186, Intel CPU, and I ran pretty soon. I don't know if it was straight away or whenever Cakewalk first came out, I ran Cakewalk on it, which
I had Cakewalk as well for years.
And I absolutely, compared to the Atari sequencer, Cakewalk was it worked with my way of thinking, so it worked a lot easier for me. And then I ended up getting a Roland synth and connecting that up with MIDI and loading all the GM sound banks, and before you know it, you could write your own music. And I wrote, this was early days, I wrote stuff on it. Sounds very cheesy, but that's how I started, and that was kind of early 90s, I think, probably mid 90s, 93, 95, somewhere around there. And
in the early 2000s, I had Cakewalk to do a full movie score. So it chugged, but I did it. 75 tracks. So you had
Wow.
to basically have multiple projects where you did a queue of 24 tracks in one project, then you bounce it to another project, and the end project was like still 75 tracks, and it chugged, but it did it. So it's on I put it on my channel a little while ago. It's The Killing Hand. I put the whole movie up.
Oh,
So
I have to check it out.
If anybody's curious.
I've actually checked out some of your videos already, so that's definitely. And all you guys that are in the chat too, don't forget Michael's link to his channel is in the description below. I put that in before we went live stream, so it should be sitting in there now for you guys. So definitely check that out. How are we going for time?
TKH or The Killing Hand. That's that's how to find that one.
Okay, cool. The Killing Hand.
Definitely amateur-made movie, but we did a feature length the first time because we were stupid. We didn't realize you should make shorts.
They're definitely the best movies, though, aren't they? Don't you reckon?
It's fun. It was a life experience.
When I went to uni, I went to my background is computer science, so I went to uni and I'd studied I did a science degree basically. And next to the computer science school was this massive performing arts, school. And we used to sort of walk out of our lecture theatres, and in the middle was this big courtyard, and they had a cafe there, and we'd all have, donuts and stuff, and there'd be all these arty farties there, and there'd be all these nerdies there, and all mingling with each other. And we all became all good friends. And as a result, we'd be dragging them into our computer labs, and we'd be playing games and, PlayStation and all that sort of stuff. And they'd be dragging us into their things, and they'd be doing like plays and music performances. And it was a, great little part of my life, and I loved it. So movie scoring was an area that I actually really, really enjoyed. I probably got along with those guys a lot. It was awesome, especially the camera gear. Loved the camera gear.
I think every good gig I've got is because somebody that was good dropped off the project or was unresponsive, and somebody would say, "Hey, can you help out?" And then I'd start, and they'd go, "Yeah, you take the whole thing." So that was the case with that. That's how I got that movie. And in the gig for 4th of July that's coming up, somebody dropped out at the last minute, and they're like, "Oh crap, what do we do?" Reached out to 20 bands, and we got it. So,
but that's cool, man. Honestly, that's opportunity knocks.
Yep.
That's what being in the right place at the right time. I mean, I don't really know what it's like living in America, but you guys have got over 10 times the population that we've got in this country. So we're like probably the equivalent of living in one of your states, and not even your biggest states. It'll be like a smaller one. I know Sydney's a pretty big city, but like where I live, there's only 2 million people here. So it's probably classified as a town compared to something in the US. I know Boston's got much more population than what we've got.
Yeah, let me look at I'm going to look up the population of the city that we're playing in. It's Lowell, Massachusetts.
Yeah. So one of the things
it's 111,000. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I was kind of sort of getting to is that for people to get a go in the US, it's a lot harder because there's so much. There's 10 times more. Whereas for people to get a go in Australia, it's technically easier. There's less
all
of us.
Networking. It's just all networking. If you're on a team and you know people, you get to the next project. Other than that, you're out. It's just how it is. And,
like I said, opportunity knocks, and they knocked and you answered. So it's awesome. Definitely, you're more than welcome to come back on the live stream, if you want. I don't know what your schedule's like every Saturday, but you're more than welcome to come back. And also, for those in the chat room, if you guys want to put your hand up to join in as a guest on the live stream, and you don't have to hang around for the whole thing. And Michael's, he's like me, he likes to geek out, so it's good fun. But you guys are more than welcome to put your hand up, and all you have to do is underneath me is my socials down the bottom, so you can find me on Twitter or Facebook, or even just leave a message in the on the about page of my YouTube channel. There should be some links to emails and things like that, so you can hit me up. If you don't want to, that's fine. You can just stay in the chat room and kind of sit there and listen out. But yeah, I think it's fun. What do you reckon, Michael? Was it good fun today?
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah, thank you for having me. 2 hours flew by.
2 hours. See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
I'm
got
actually,
some people in the chat to follow, so I'm just grabbing their channels.
yeah,
as we
yeah.
go through.
There's some awesome people in chat. The guys that come in regularly are really, really cool. I'm actually starting to get, I'm starting to feel tired. It's just hit midnight here, and I'm just thinking to myself, yeah, I can hear my voice croaky, and I had a big day today. I had to get up at about 5:30 a.m. and then I've got kids, so I had all the kids things to do, and then by about lunchtime that's all finished. You got kids sports and stuff like that, and then I went to a footy game, and so that sitting in a stadium for about 4 hours, and then had the live stream after that. So a pretty big day for me.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Anyway,
I got a
guys.
big day too. Want to get going, but it's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And thanks very much for joining. And also you guys in chat too, thanks very much for joining. What we'll do is we'll leave it at that, and hopefully if you guys want to tee up with me during the week and let me know what you want me to do next week on the live stream. Other than that, we'll leave it at that, and thumbs up, say bye to everyone, Michael.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
All right, see you guys later.